Well, welcome everyone to another episode of AI Talks. This is a series of talks that we do, which is, as I keep saying, by practitioners and for practitioners of the AI world and for the world at large. But I am joined by two very special practitioners today. Welcome, Dr. Rohini Srivathsa. She's the Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft India and South Asia, and a person whom is a tall technology leader of India, speaks at various functions and occasions. I will come to her and talk to her a little about her background. I'm also joined by Hasit Trivedi, CTO Digital Technologies and the Global Head of AI at Tech Mahindra. Welcome both of you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you.
So, Rohini, I believe, this is congratulations are in order for the new pivot in your career. And now, as Chief Technology Officer of Microsoft India and South Asia, I think the topic that we want to discuss is very pertinent. It's an area of interest for you as well. We're here today to talk about AI for good. I'm reminded about the time that Chat GPT was launched, 30th of November 2022. And one of the tweets that has stayed with me, this was actually coming out from the Microsoft Redmond campus. And they said, ChatGPT was dropped yesterday, and it is akin to us discovering nuclear energy. We will spend a lot of time talking about the guardrails, how it can be misused, etc., etc. But the one thing that we know is the world has changed forever. And what I wanted to do is, it's an apt example because, like nuclear energy, which and everyone obviously, focuses a lot about misuse and the ability of it going haywire, but it can be harnessed for good. And I thought I'd use that segue to first come to you and l- ask you about the overall spectrum of AI for good. Now, when we talk, usually we talk about how we can use AI for, benefit to society, alleviate poverty, hunger, inequality, improve education, gender equality, sanitation, stuff like that. And it's particularly important for a country like ours, and I'll come to that aspect. But AI for good is really um, a much larger topic. And I wanted you to, set context for us from your vantage point. And you've worn many hats. I want you to tell us a little because, I'm intrigued to have you as a guest. You've dabbled in education. You have such a varied perspective. Tell us about how one should look at this gamut. And then I'll come to you and, probe you on some of those particular aspects. So over to you, please.
Thank you, Jeet. That's a great question to start with. Um, Look, AI, we know has been around for some time. It is a general purpose technology, and I use those keywords quite carefully. A general purpose technology is defined as a technology that has very broad-based impact on societies, on economies, on organizations. So if before the chat GPT moment, we were talking about it as something that is across the horizon, clearly, as you rightly pointed out, it has shown the disruptive nature and the huge impact that AI can have on society. So when we speak about AI for good, I take it to say that if I'm talking about a general purpose technology, then it actually needs to be good for society as a whole. So that's why it has to have a broader implication, which means that as a society, if we care about issues of inclusion, of fairness, of accountability, of security, privacy, those should be fundamental as we think about AI because of its broad-based application in society. And I think one of the areas that I've been passionate about for last several years is the area of responsibility and ethics of AI. And in fact, Microsoft president was here last couple of weeks back. And based on the work that we've been doing with organizations within Microsoft for the last 5, 6 years on responsible AI, starting with principles, taking them into practices in terms of governance, standards, tools and technologies, etc., we published a governance framework for AI for India. And particularly in the context of generative AI, because of the disruptive nature of technology, I think it's very important for all of us to be plugged into the topic of AI governance, responsible AI, ethics of AI, because it is something that will be front and center for every organization who's thinking seriously about AI as part of doing business. So Brad had laid out a 5-point blueprint for governing AI, and I would encourage you to just put it in your search engine and learn about it, understand it, because it goes into how to think about governing AI in the generative AI world, because it is a paradigm shift. It is a foundational model that is a reasoning engine. It has to be thought about differently. How one needs to think about a layered approach to governing AI, also how to think about as an organization from a perspective of policies, practices, training, governance, etc., and really learnings from how we've been thinking about. By the way, I've been in this journey for some time, as I said, so I'm happy to say that it is an ongoing process. It's not that we've found all the answers, but it is also an approach where every organization will need to experiment, learn early, share learnings, because only then as a collective we can go further. Now, the point that you raised earlier in terms of um, issues and societal causes where clearly AI can have huge impact. One of the areas I'm very passionate about is sustainability. And while it's a topic with very broad possibilities across carbon and water, waste, ecosystems, etc., I'll just give an example of something that we've been working on. It's an organization called ARTRE, Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and Environment. Now, they've been working in the northeastern part of India to really map and document the rich ecology of that region with the idea of conservation using computer vision-based AI to detect and identify various types of vegetation using satellite images at high resolution. At the end of the day, those are intended to then illustrate the patterns of species, endemism, rarity, etc., and then make informed decisions as planning developments happen in that part of the region. There are many, many use cases one can go into, but sustainability as a broader area is pretty close to my heart.
Fantastic. And, that's, I think as partners, we're made for each other. Tech Mahindra takes the sustainability very seriously, and we've won several awards for sustainability. So definitely very close to collectively our heart as well. And we should take your advice and talk to you more about that. Also on the thread that you mentioned about collaboration, I think that's a very important point. Organizations, they say it takes a village, and literally, while organizations are competing and we're all in the business of business, but I think collaboration is a key point as this technology emerges, and that's why I'm glad we have thought leaders like Hasit and you on platforms like these, sharing views. Hasit, let me come to you from that segue. We touched a little bit about responsible AI, and I think viewers should search for that 5-point framework. I will for sure after this. I wanted Hasit you to give a view, and I know you have a view on fairness, explainability, responsibility. These three terms are bandied about, and you speak about it a bit. So, on that segue, can you give us a little bit of your perspective on how these terms come together?
Yeah, I think as Rohini said, that responsible AI is a very base to the AI for good, correct? and be it a fairness, bias, explainability, accountability is a fundamental to what we do in this technology world. And specific thing which you're talking about, that explainability is a something which is very important, because if you are not able to explain anything, it leads to distrust. Correct. So that's where the trust of the on technology is function of the how much you are able to explain. If you are not able to explain, then trust deficit comes into picture. So it's very funda among the various this thing explained becomes very fundamental to ensure that you are responsible. Now, AI for good, having the base of responsible AI has the three actors. If you see, one is the society, of course, other is government, a third is the corporate citizens. Correct. So companies like ours. And I think everybody has their own play and aspiration to do many things. For example, for citizen perspective, uh, they expect how the AI can help to create a safer world, hunger-free world, queue-free world, or educated world. Correct. So those are the aspirations which they would like to have with any technology, and with the AI, certainly some of these things are possible. And those are the perspective from the AI for good, from the citizen and societal perspective. From government perspective, which of course will drive some of these things, but additionally they have to see that how AI can be used for the citizen grievances, how they can ensure that it has been used for their defense, how they can use it for the judiciary mechanisms, improving a faster judiciary mechanism. So those are the elements which governments will have to adopt to protect as a country from the various elements, as well as the provide a service to citizen. Now, when it comes to corporates, the elements are a little bit different. So the data protection becomes very important. Copyrights becomes very important. Cyber vulnerability becomes very important. These three becomes very important aspects. So while the conundrum of the AI for good and responsible AI is a has a vast area, but everybody has a different focus area for their spectrum of the things. And that's where I think depends on the context. Each of these has to be looked into appropriately. But having said that thing, when I started with explainability, let us look at a scenario in a banking scenario. For example, if you are denied a loan because of certain AI score has given that okay, your score is below XYZ, and that's why this thing. Now, does bank should bank explain why the AI has given that score? Answer is yes, because the consumers are getting impacted and they are denied for a particular kind of services. So explainability is very relevant here. Now, in the case of the weather forecasting, right, you are telling that, and today, that, for example, in Pune, it's been forecasted that it will be heavy rain in next 2 days. Now, do I need explanatory? Maybe, may not be correct. So I think because it's a proven, it's a trust has been built, and I don't have to keep explaining that why the weather forecasting. It's a forecasting, it's an AI algorithm, but I don't need to explain. So the explainability also has a context in which it needs a deeper understanding of this thing. Or take an example of cricket world, correct? Duckworth-Lewis rule, which is also some kind of AI algorithm, which gives you the view that if you are batting second and if it rains, which happened between India-Pakistan match recently in Asia Cup, that what will the target score, which is a complex function of the number of overs already elapsed, number of wickets has fallen, and run to be chased. These three combination give certain statistics. But irrespective of the situation, the people who are betting, who had batted first, they feel they have been cheated. They have not been treated fairly. Correct. But now again, the understanding of fairness. Fairness is about that equal. They have both the party knew the rule upfront, so there is nothing fairness issue. Both the party knew the rule of Duckworth-Lewis will be applied. That is a fair aspect. But however, irrespective of all the educated people feel that this is incorrect. So this is a classic example, the explainability, not providing explainability leading to the distrust. And people thinks it's unfair. It's a fair algorithm because it's applied equally to both team, irrespective of whichever team bat first, it is applied to that team. It is known to both the party. But lack of explanatory leads to the trust deficit or fairness questions. So I think that's how the fairness, trust, and explanations are connected. And I think in our world, while the explanatory is very loudly talked about this thing, but we need to see the context in which it has to be explained. As I said, weather forecast doesn't require explainability. Correct. Once trust is established of any process, you may not have a necessity to explain the things. So yeah, but those are some of the aspects which I thought to talk about.
Thanks, Hasit. And so I mean, it's always good to bring in cricket to explain AI terms. That kind of guarantees, understanding at a next level. So thank you for that. I'll pick up on, the three actors you said: government, society, citizens. And again, Rohini, you're an advisor in different forums to the government. I want to, and since we're, both we live in Bangalore, every time, there is an event, a technology event in Bangalore, we tell the world that Nandan Nilekani, did the Aadhaar project, and it was the foundation of the Jam stack. Um, you know, so the India stack, and now putting e-commerce on top of it, is kind of giving us that boost towards becoming a 10 trillion economy. You spoke about computer vision, looking at, crops or vegetation data, and getting inferences, which, by the way, for the viewers, we call infinity ops, and it's on the logo in our background, doing things that were earlier not possible. You earlier couldn't do stuff like this, which stuff like computer vision makes possible. I want to connect these two and give you a use case of, and I was talking about this the other day, tier two, tier three cities now, or even an uneducated person, business person in India today can use computer vision and just scan their store, the products they have. It creates an automatic catalog. It then publishes it somewhere for people to buy from him or her. Uh, that's a very enabling function. And I think from an economic perspective, this technology is removing barriers of entry, which was education, knowing the English language, knowing technology to some level. Give us, as a technology leader, uh, you know, give us your perspective on how this technology is helping in economic progress and how that will give us that rocket boost towards a 10 trillion and more economy.
So look, absolutely the kind of work happening in India as part of the what we are calling India Stack and the Jam Trinity you talked about, clearly it's changing the orbit of the kind of opportunities. But I think if you look at the common person in a tier two, tier three town, I think one of the biggest ways you can empower people is give them access to information, access to knowledge, access to opportunities. And um, given the diversity of India, in terms of ethnicities and languages, etc., I think that is one huge dimension that one needs to solve for in India. Just the number of languages which are in our constitution are 22 languages, right? And if you go into dialects, it goes into thousands. So I think the ability for the country to become really an inclusive, not just the number, but inclusive. So the number that we need to keep in mind is per capita income also, right? And that is the way in which you're going to be able to see that the common person is seeing the benefit of that economic growth that we are all aspiring for. And one enabler for that is language. And I just want to speak about the project Bhashini that I'm sure you're aware of. It's a Government of India initiative to build a national digital platform for languages. It's leveraging the power of AI and other emerging technologies. Now, one of the places where Microsoft has been collaborating on this initiative is with AI for Bharat, which is a project based out of IIT Madras, and the Step Foundation. And it's been an exercise that could happen only in India. I'll give you examples. Of course, languages are a global phenomenon, but there are certain languages which are really low resource languages, which are spoken in small, communities that for which you may not have enough training data. So a lot of work has happened in the ecosystem, and it's not just one organization. It is between academia, government, research organizations like Microsoft Research on enabling Indian languages that are low resource. Of course, it is a lot of technology that goes behind it, but also leveraging crowdsourcing for data collection and providing in that process meaningful economic opportunities for particularly women in rural areas to be able to donate their language inputs that adds to the growth to the national corpus, right? So I think that ability to really bring the foundational element of language in terms of being able to have natural language interactions, to address questions, understand what a for example, a farmer has a question on what are the PM Kisan Yojana benefits that the person is even eligible for. How does that person get that information? And we can talk later on, but a lot of the new technology like generative AI is coming into picture in being able to go into the corpus of a government's scheme and answer questions in a question and answer format, layered with Bhashini. So now you can speak in that native language. Now, beyond language, if you go and think about people with deafness or hard of hearing community, sign languages, for example, are very different in different parts of the world. India has a very different sign language than American and other parts of the world. So there's another area of work that AI for Bharat has been doing in exploring new ways to train AI models to recognize, interpret, and transcribe the world of sign languages. To me, that is the meaning of the earlier discussion we were having on AI for good. Are we ensuring that AI is being developed in a way that its power can be utilized for inclusion for people with disabilities? And we can have many, many examples, right? But it's language, but it's even the dimension for inclusion, it's much, much larger.
Fantastic. And honestly, I was not aware that there are, so many different versions of sign language as well. So that's a good
American Sign
information.
Language is only one. Indian is different. There are many parts of the world which have very different sign languages.
Fantastic. That's I was not aware of that. But again, so let me again try and connect the dots, right? So I keep saying, you mentioned this as well, that access to information and access to knowledge. And I say that, the internet revolution took the cost of information closer to zero, because it was readily available. And with generative AI, the cost of knowledge is tending towards zero, because now you can query and get the crux or the knowledge query of it. And then we are also saying that, generative AI is the UI for AI. You can use it to access all this AI. Hasit, I know you are a big believer in the ability of, um, or the art of possible, if language barriers and technology adoption barriers are removed, what it can do for tier 2, tier 3 cities. As a company, Tech Mahindra, many years ago, developed the Bharat markup language, Bhamal, so that people could code in their language. We are now working on the Indic LLM. But I know that, Hasit, you have this voice as the universal AI is something that you're passionate about and you've spoken of before. I think I'd want to bring you in, because that's essentially what Dr. Srivathsa was also saying, that that coming together will really open up possibilities. So help us understand your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think I'll continue with where Dr. Rohini start, language barrier, right? I think if you see that in 2000, in year 2000, I think the world is flat term was coined, correct? It was flattening of the world from the visa restriction perspective. It was flattening in terms of goods can move from any place to any place without too much of restriction. That was a globalization era where most of the countries started opening up their borders, so goods can move from one. So it was visa barrier, goods movement barrier were removed, and then economies of various countries shoot up. So the removing barrier leads to the economic growth was first time it was experienced through that phenomena, world becoming flat. Second, flattening of world, I think, has happened during COVID time. I think it's a reversal of this thing. You don't have to move. The previous flattening of world was movement was the key thing, that things were moving from one place to other. Now you don't have to move. You can sit and work and move to you. You don't have to move. So that is a reversal or reverse phenomena, I would say, of flattening in digital form, where the work came to you and you don't have to move. And that is leading to further growth of in various economies, because now uh, earlier the phenomena was that you produce at the cheapest location and sell it at costliest location. So that was the plain economics. Now same, and that was applied to goods. Now it's services also. It's possible you can supply your services from anywhere. It is beyond just IT services. Any kind of services can be supplied remotely because now the cloud, AI, and various technologies, digital technologies allows you to do that thing. And COVID taught us that it works. Correct. So we got a testing period of 2-3 years when the world realized that it was. Now it's time to scale. So now, so that is another example of breaking a barrier of the physical presence and thus unleashing the growth. Now, the generative AI is bringing another breaking barrier of language, correct or not, and thus it will unleash the economic growth. And when I say voice can be universal UI for human to interface with machine. Uh, why I'm saying, because humans script came later on in human evolution. The voice was the only language, or sign was the only language before script came into picture. So voice is the most natural form of human to interact with anybody else. Correct. So all of us want to talk and listen rather than type and read. Correct. So I think that is very, because of machine we started getting into that area, but now machine itself is providing that I don't need you to write and read. You can communicate the way you are originally born with, correct, which is voice as this thing. You don't need education to speak. And that is the barrier. If you broke, then certainly human capability is no more in mercy of the education of the individuals. Correct. It's not mercy of the language. Your language can be Tamil and my language can be Gujarati. I can still interact. And thus the overall knowledge quotient of the planet Earth will increase. So today, a Japanese literature cannot be read or understood by the Western countries, or Indian literature of so many languages cannot be understood and read by anybody else, correct? So the knowledge is limited by the language of the knowledge. Now, once it gets broken area, the overall knowledge will be such a huge phenomena will happen. And once this is, and thanks to all the hyperscalers like Microsoft, assuming they're able to do it at a reasonable price point at scale, then certainly I think it unleashes human potential in a big manner. And it's a proven that if the knowledge of human increases, the economy, it has direct impression of growth. Correct. So I think the knowledge economy leading to the economic growth is a proven. So I think these are how so first paradigm which I try to say is a removing barrier of various nature leads to economic growth, and creating a knowledge economy leads to economic growth. And voice being as a universal UI, I would say, correct, is the most natural way to interface with the machine or humans. I think these things coming together will be unleashing tremendous power. I think we are heading towards a very fast-paced changes in our way we are working today. In next 1 decade, probably we'll not see the keypad or keyboard of world. Probably you will meet, none of our kids will write probably. They'll listen only. The education mechanics has to change. People will listen from the Alexa of the world, digital assistants of the world, and those things will happen. So it's a here and now. I think, yeah, that's all I would like to say.
I'd love my teenager son to listen to me. That would be great.
If Mr. Musk has his way, you'll not even have to speak. You just have to think with your Neuralink chip, and that should be enough. But look, it's a great conversation. I am conscious of time, and this could go on very clearly for much longer. But like we were discussing, in today's world, the attention spans are shrinking, so I won't bore the audience with a very long session. But I do want to come to one final area, which again is very pertinent because of the panel we have today. Dr. Srivathsa, again, you've worked with the government of India on many initiatives. I know that you've worked with, and you also mentioned that it's not just about government and industry, but also academia. There are, I know that you were involved in overseeing some of these technology innovation hubs, etc., that are being set up. So why don't you give us a perspective of, and again, like I said, we want the audience to go back and look up some of these. I'm sure we won't have the time to explain in detail, but if you can give some threads to the audience about what are some of these initiatives that you've been involved with, which you feel more people should be curious about, that'll be great.
Yeah, I think, look, if we talk about India's demographic dividend, and if we talk about the fact that India is to become a 10 trillion economy, I think the ability for this demographic dividend to really innovate and solve the challenges that are specific to India and the developing world, to be honest, is super critical. And I think one place where India could do better is in leveraging our academic and R&D world in innovation, in R&D, in conjunction with the government and industry. There's so much potential. So if you look at the examples we spoke about earlier, Bhashini, and it is a testament to what could be possible by the government, industry members, as well as in this case IIT Madras and other bodies come together to be able to solve a problem, right? I think there's just so much potential. So you are right. I do serve on the scientific advisory committee for Department of Science and Technology, has a national mission on inter-cyber physical systems. Now, that mission has put forth 25 technology innovation hubs across the country. And all the top institutions across the, whether it's from Guwahati to the north, beyond the top institutions we talk about, right, they have a technology innovation hub. And these areas are, in fact, working in all areas of inter-cyber physical systems. When we say inter-cyber physical, what I'm talking about are industry, what is called Industry 4.0 or IoT or anything that is cyber and physical, and that's the way where the world is going, right? So these hubs are working across sectors of health, security, environment, smart cities, automation, communication, agriculture, finance, across the board. And like I mentioned, they are, in places like Ropar and Mandi and Dhanbad, etc., that we don't normally think about, but there's amazing work going on. And each of these hubs is autonomous, is a Section 8 company. It has a CEO, is looking to have that collaboration with industry, incubate startups with government, and bring academia in a hub and spoke model. So very, very interesting R&D experiment is happening in the country. When I go into some of these sessions, I feel deeply inspired with the kind of work that is happening. Just yesterday, I was at IIIT Bangalore and was learning about really innovative work happening in the world of 5G. Just tremendous potential for the country to leapfrog and play a major role in the global telecom industry. So I think the larger point I would leave the audience to is that we really need to think big. We need to engage beyond the top IITs. No disrespect to them. I know IIT Madras, Kanpur, Chennai, Delhi and Mumbai are doing amazing work, Hyderabad and others. But really, there is a much larger universe of R&D talent in the country that can solve problems, and really innovative work is happening in conjunction with industry and the government. And it's up to us to lean in, engage with these hubs, encourage and play our role in raising the R&D quotient for the country.
Fantastic. Hasit, can I get you to chime in with some of your experiences as well, please?
Yeah, I think Dr. Rohini is much taller than me on this particular area. I think she's been involved into so many. I don't know how she finds time to do so many things. But yeah, whatever limited interaction which I had, I think One thing I agree, because when many of the government academic discussion which I was participant, I think that we as a country are usually focusing on consumption of AI. I think that everybody is feel confident that AI, government will use AI in big manner. So that's where I try to put the point. Yes, by nature we would be consuming anything very widely and very big manner. But I think we should be focusing on creation also, which directly leads to the doing research. Correct. The consumption of the AI will happen. Then whether it's government intervene or not intervene, it will definitely happen. We as consumers are hungry to new things, and thus whether it's a person in village or in a metro, doesn't matter. We are very good at adopting technology. So I think the AI will be consumed with or without government intervention. But the government intervention and of course with academia is needed is on research about the creation of technology. And I think this is where something long way to go, and we can do. Potential is not an issue, capability is not the issue, intent is not the issue. It's coming things together, and but it's happening. I think, honestly speaking, that I think in the current government, I think, for example, GPay summit, which GPay initiative, which is part of G20 offshore, which is a global partner of artificial intelligence. I think our country is taking uh, front end role in shaping up the role of AI in future from policy perspective, data protection perspective, compute perspective, sustainable AI development perspective. I think it's a as a government and academia and all industry coming together in that initiative, and not only from India, across the globe, people are coming, and India front ending that whole discussion and owning that discussion, creating a charter out of it is a great thing. Things to be proud about whole thing, but that will limit to the policies, process, and governance aspect. It will not lead to the creation something within our country. So consumption and the policy and governance, I think India will lead, no doubt. We have the intellectual capability as well as the hunger to adopt technology and the mindshare to get a global attention towards us towards that thing. But the thing which will require really uplifting is the creation of technology. And I think Dr. Rohini pointed out, I think that is where I think as a country we need to focus in a big manner.
Absolutely. I think, we're out of time, but on that, I want to leave the audience. And we were talking before that really, all of you have taken so much time. We want, especially the youngsters, to take back a message. And while you were talking, Hasit, I kind of coined it in my head. And I'll borrow from JFK's famous speech. So you're essentially saying, ask not what AI can do for you, ask what you can do for the development and furtherment of AI. And I think if the youngsters can kind of really get enthused and passionate about the technology as a country, there's fantastic potential. 10 trillion will happen, but as Dr. Srivathsa pointed out, it should happen with per capita going up. And this is a technology which democratizes and empowers everyone. So there is just so much art of possible, and it was great to hear about some of the initiatives. At least I am curious, and I've got pages of notes from whether it is the 5 point framework. I want to learn about the different types of sign languages. I want to look at these technology innovation hubs and all of these places. So much happening. And again, thank you so much for taking the time and for leading all of these initiatives, for the country as a whole. Keep up the good work. And again, thank you very much for taking the time out to record this session with us.
Thank you, Jeet. Thank you for moderating
Thanks,
a
Jeet.
really interesting conversation. Really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Ronnie. Thanks.
Thank you.